Imagine you wake up tomorrow, and you cannot lie. You cannot steal. You cannot even think about harming another person. Not because you chose to be good, but because someone else made that choice for you. Somewhere right now, in a facility with no name, in a city with no marker on any public map, there are people sitting in white rooms. Former criminals, former killers, former predators, and they are smiling. Not because they are happy, but because they have been programmed to smile. In the next 30 minutes, you will question everything you believe about justice, freedom, and what it means to be human. For 100 years, we have asked the same question. What do we do with people who break society's rules? We tried prisons. They failed. We tried rehabilitation. It was slow. We tried punishment. It created more monsters. But what if there was another way? What if, instead of changing behavior, you could change the brain itself? What if the darkest impulses of the human mind could be identified, isolated, and simply deleted? That is not science fiction. According to documents that should never have been made public, that is the Shadow Redemption Protocol. And what these documents reveal about how it works should terrify every person watching this video. We have spent weeks analyzing these specifications, cross-referencing the technical language, consulting experts in neuroscience, law, and political philosophy, none of whom would go on record, because they are afraid. And by the end of this video, you will understand why. Let's start with the science. Because before you can understand why the Shadow Redemption Protocol is dangerous, you need to understand what it actually does to a human brain. The human brain processes approximately 70,000 thoughts per day. Of those, scientists estimate that between 1,200 and 2,000 involve what psychologists call antisocial ideation. Thoughts about anger, dominance, deception, violence. In most people, those thoughts are filtered, suppressed by the prefrontal cortex, the brain's moral governor. They never become actions. In a small percentage of people, that filter is weak, damaged by trauma, by genetics, by circumstance. And those people, statistically, are more likely to end up in the criminal justice system. Here is where the Shadow Redemption Protocol begins. And here is where it crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed. According to the April 2026 technical specifications, the protocol begins with a process called impulse mapping. Over a period of 72 hours, a subject wears a neural interface, a device that looks from the outside like a medical headset. But what it is doing inside is something no medical device has ever done before. It is reading every electrical signal in the brain, building a complete map of that individual's neural architecture, every thought pattern, every emotional response, every instinct, charted, cataloged, classified, and then the system does something extraordinary. It identifies what the specifications call criminogenic neural clusters, specific patterns of brain activity that correlate statistically with criminal behavior, not actions, not choices, thoughts. They are not punishing what you did. They are targeting what you might do, and that distinction changes everything. Phase 2 is called synthetic moral anchoring. This is where the protocol moves from reading the brain to rewriting it. Using a combination of targeted electromagnetic pulses and neurochemical microinjections, the system severs the connections between the criminogenic clusters and replaces them with what the documents call synthetic moral anchors, pre-programmed responses, emotional reactions that feel, to the subject, completely natural, completely their own. The subject does not feel violated. They feel improved. They feel calmer, clearer, more at peace, because the part of their brain that would recognize what was done to them has been the first thing removed. When a natural human being chooses not to steal, there is a process: temptation, consideration, guilt, restraint, choice. When a protocol subject encounters the same situation, there is no process, there is no temptation, there is only compliance. And here is the question the architects of this program refuse to answer in their own documentation. Is a person who cannot choose to do evil truly good? Or are they simply a very convincing machine? Now let's talk about where this is happening. Because the Shadow Redemption Protocol does not operate inside normal prisons. It cannot. What it does is not legally classified as incarceration. It is classified through a legal framework we will examine later as medical treatment. And medical treatment happens in medical facilities. According to the leaked documents, there are currently 23 facilities operating under the protocol's jurisdiction. None of them appear on any public registry of correctional institutions. None of them are subject to standard prison oversight. They are, on paper, private neurological treatment centers. And from the outside, they look exactly like that. Visitors, on the rare occasions they are permitted, see calm patients, clean rooms, attentive staff, a peaceful environment. What they don't see is the selection process that determines who ends up there, and who made that decision without ever appearing in a courtroom. The pipeline begins inside traditional correctional systems. An algorithm, developed by a private contractor whose name appears only as Nexus Behavioral Solutions in the documents, continuously scans inmate profiles, criminal history, psychological evaluations, behavioral incident reports, biometric data. When a profile meets a certain threshold, the inmate receives what is described internally as a medical referral. They are told they have been selected for an advanced treatment program. Participation, the documents confirm, is technically voluntary. Technically, the consent form they sign, a document running to 94 pages of dense legal language, waives their right to full disclosure of the procedures involved, waives their right to withdraw consent once treatment has begun, and classifies any adverse psychological outcomes as expected side effects of the therapeutic process. But who is funding facilities this sophisticated? Because the government budget for this program appears nowhere in any public record. So where is the money coming from? The leaked specifications reveal a funding structure built on corporate-state partnerships. 3 companies, unnamed in full, referred to only by internal codes, have invested a combined figure that the documents describe as north of $4 billion in protocol infrastructure. In exchange, they receive what the agreement terms first access to protocol graduates for employment placement. Read that again. The corporations funding the removal of human will are also first in line to employ the people whose will has been removed. People who will never unionize, never protest, never demand more than they are given. People who are, by neurological design, perfectly compliant workers. And this is not speculation. This language exists in the documents. Page 47, Section 12, Paragraph 3. And what it describes is something with a very old, very dark name. This is where the video gets philosophical, but stay with me. Because what we are about to discuss is not abstract. It has direct consequences for every person alive. The architects of the Shadow Redemption Protocol believe they have solved crime. And in a purely statistical sense, they may be right. Protocol graduates reoffend at a rate of approximately 0.3%. Compare that to the standard recidivism rate of nearly 70%. By every measurable metric, it works. But here's the paradox. And it is one the documents themselves cannot resolve. For 5,000 years, across every culture, every religion, every legal system, human morality has been defined by choice. The ability to do wrong and choosing not to. That is what we call virtue. A stone does not steal. A stone does not kill. But we do not call a stone good. When a protocol subject encounters a situation where a normal person might lie and does not lie, is that goodness? Or is it simply the absence of the capacity to lie? And here is what former protocol subjects themselves say about this, because some of them have found ways to speak. And what they describe as one of the most disturbing phenomena in this entire story. They call it the void. It appears in no official documentation. It is not an acknowledged side effect. But across dozens of independent testimonies, the description is almost identical. Former subjects describe waking up and being unable to remember who they were before the protocol. Not just their crimes, everything. Their first memory of their mother's face, the name of their childhood best friend. The feeling of wanting something so badly it hurt. Gone. The void neurologists who reviewed the specifications told us is consistent with what happens when you sever too many connections in the limbic system. You don't just remove criminal impulses. You remove the emotional continuity that makes a person a coherent self. These people are not rehabilitated. They are not the same people who entered the facility. They are new people installed in old bodies. And the old person is simply gone now, legally. What does that make the protocol? Because the answer the documents provide, the legal framework they have constructed to make all of this permissible, is perhaps the most disturbing. Part of this entire story, the protocol is not classified as punishment. It is not classified as experimentation. It is classified as medical treatment, administered under the medical necessity. Provision of a piece of legislation passed during a period of public panic over crime rates. The provision states that when a credentialed neurological facility certifies that an individual poses a quantifiable public safety risk, treatment may be administered without standard informed consent protocols. In other words, if the state decides your brain is dangerous, the state can fix it. Without asking you, without telling you what they are doing, and without any court ever reviewing that decision. And the people making that determination, the people deciding whose brain gets rewritten, are not judges. They are not elected officials. They are an algorithm and 3 corporate partners. Let that sink in. Now let's look at the final layer of the protocol, because neural conditioning alone, according to the specifications, is only phase 1 and 2. Phase 3 is called the Civic Integration Module. And this is where the program stops being about rehabilitation and reveals what it was always really about. The Civic Integration Module is a set of neurologically implanted dispositions, not just the removal of criminal impulses, the installation of civic ones. Subjects emerge from the protocol with a deep, unshakable trust in state institutions, a reflexive comfort with authority, an instinctive aversion to dissent. They are not criminals. They are model citizens. Enthusiastic voters always for incumbent stability candidates, reliable taxpayers, productive workers, quiet neighbors. They never protest, they never organize, they never question, and here is the thing about that. The public was promised lower crime rates, and they got them. But what they were not told, what is buried in 200 pages of internal specifications, is what else they got in return. Since the protocol's quiet implementation, violent crime in affected regions has dropped 67%. But political dissent has dropped 71%. Unionization rates have dropped 84%. Civil rights litigation has dropped 89%. The program that was sold as a solution to crime has produced something far more valuable to the people funding it. A population that does not push back. The documents reveal internal communications celebrating not crime reduction, but what they call civic yield optimization. The percentage of the population exhibiting what the documents describe as stable, productive, authority-aligned behavioral profiles. That is the real metric. That was always the real metric. And when you compare the behavioral profiles of protocol graduates to the neural directive specifications, the overlap is not coincidental. It is identical down to the specific emotional responses, down to the precise threshold of acceptable dissatisfaction. Someone designed this very carefully, and the question is, who? The documents point to a steering committee, a group that appears in communications only as the architecture board. No names, no titles, no affiliations stated, only decisions and outcomes, except on one page, page 112 of the leaked specifications. Someone forgot to redact a signature, and that signature points to an institution that would surprise you. We are not naming it today, because we are still verifying, and because what happens to people who name things in this story is itself a story we are not ready to tell yet. Let's look forward, because the Shadow Redemption Protocol is not the endpoint. It is the beginning. The specifications include a 4th phase, not yet implemented, but designed, funded, and waiting. Phase 4 is called Preventative Cognitive Management. It involves the neurological screening of children, beginning at age 7, for what the documents call pre-criminal neural architecture. Patterns in a developing brain that statistical models suggest may correlate with future criminal behavior. Not criminal acts, not criminal thoughts, criminal potential. Children flagged by the system would be enrolled voluntarily with parental consent obtained under the medical necessity provision in what the documents call early cognitive alignment programs. You do not need to be a philosopher to understand what that means. It means a generation of human beings whose minds have been shaped before those minds were even fully formed, before those people could consent, before those people were even capable of understanding what consent means. And right now, in response to exactly this possibility, something is happening that the documents did not anticipate. People are fighting back, not with violence, with ideas. The cognitive liberty movement has no official leadership, no central organization, no headquarters. It is simply people who have read the documents, who have spoken to protocol graduates, who have looked at what is coming and decided they are not willing to go quietly into that clean, compliant, empty future. Their demands are specific: the absolute right to cognitive self-determination, mandatory public disclosure of any neurological intervention by state or corporate actors, an independent international tribunal to review existing protocol procedures, and full legal personhood for protocol graduates, recognizing them as victims of identity destruction, not as criminals who have been successfully treated. Whether they will succeed depends entirely on whether enough people know this is happening, which is exactly why we made this video. So let's answer the question we started with. Can a person truly be good if they no longer have the choice to be bad? The answer that every serious moral philosopher, from Aristotle to Kant to modern ethicists, has arrived at independently is no. Goodness requires the genuine possibility of its opposite. Remove the possibility of evil, and you have not created virtue. You have created furniture. The Shadow Redemption Protocol has not ended crime. It has ended people, specific, irreplaceable, autonomous people, and replaced them with something that wears their faces. Something that functions, something that complies, something that will never, ever cause a problem again. And if you find that comforting, you need to ask yourself a very important question. How long before the definition of criminal impulse expands to include asking too many questions? Disagreeing too loudly? Thinking too independently? Because the system described in these documents does not need you to commit a crime to flag you. It needs only to decide that your mind is inconvenient. And once that decision is made, there is no appeal, no curing. The most powerful prison has no walls. It is built inside the mind, and it looks exactly like freedom. This is not science fiction. This is the direction of unchecked power. Stay informed, stay loud, stay human. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is your autonomy working exactly as it should. Share this with someone who needs to see it. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe, because the next chapter of this story is already being written.